Yesterday, I believe it's Forex community support, I believe, broadcasted, and we have the official standings for last month trader contest, and I took the 14th place. For some reason, I was upgraded one place. I was in the 15th. So yeah, for January, I stand in 14th position. So this is something that I was commenting other webinars before. Actually, at the very ending of January, I put a picture, more or less explaining my approximate final position, but this is official. I just was credited my price. Here it is, in some place. Here it is. $500. But okay, before that, well, I will just close this. In any case that you're interested in checking this out, you can go to my blog. You just look for my name in Dukascopy FX community, and this will show up. You can leave a message you feel like. And well, here is my price just credited yesterday, I believe today. I really don't know the exact time. I believe it was today. And well, my current situation of the current disaster account is not getting any better. It's not getting worse. That's good. I will review the trades that I open on the Wise. But well, so far we are at 46% maximum drawdown. Remember that my objective is to keep this above 60% at least. So this is how the account behaved. I was explaining yesterday that I decided not to close the New Zealand dollar trade at resistance retesting, and I just decided to just let it run. But this explains why I insist so much that when you're trading your live money at the first acceptable resistance, you need to take half of your profits and put the rest break even, because it's a habit of the markets that when they get into a retest of a significant resistance or support, we will have a retracement. How much retracement, we don't know. So as a good habit, as a good trading practice, it's just a no-brainer thing. But in this case, it was demo, and I was explaining yesterday that just because that trade, I found that in any case it was right at the very end, that maybe I could not find better good trading entry points again. But since this is a guessing game, because we don't have a manual or a crystal ball to know if that actually will happen or not, I decided to play it that way, and I will show you how the trade is doing. I opened 2 other trades in the trader contest, smaller lots, using the available margin at that moment. I decided to open those trades, and I will explain those trades to you. But first of all, here's my Mario. And well, this is the post that I put at the ending of the American session. I was reviewing the euro-dollar 4-hour chart outlook. At that moment, the price was more or less here. And look where it is now. I will just read up this. This says, according to my expectations, the markets are reassessing last week non-farm-payroll number, giving it its real value. Remember that I have been explaining that for me, I was not really convinced the dollar reaction after having that outstanding non-farm-payroll number, and the excuse of having the hourly wages in the United States going disappointing, at least for me, was not good enough reason to sell the dollar. It is said that the potential Frexit risks are the ones that are helping the dollar to boost. I don't think that is the case either, because following the chart, the price action patterns in pound before Brexit and the dollar patterns just before American elections. Apparently, the markets are just waiting to the very last moment to make wild adjustments. So I really don't believe that what it's relies beneath the reasons for the dollar weakness after non-farm payroll number actually were those wages thing. But well, who knows? The important thing is at the end, as I've been explaining during other webinar deliveries, is that you need to be able to have your own opinions and to sustain them with arguments, solid arguments, and overall with price action. With the market moving in your favor, that means that no matter what's the reading in the mass media, if you're able to read between the lines in a correct way, at the end the markets will end up usually giving you the reason and putting you in profit, putting you some bucks in your pockets. So well, if you see, this is the 4-hour chart. Where was exactly this was the non-farm payroll number reaction, okay? But look what happened after. So this makes sense, right? And again, this kind of movement in the euro dollar is not the one that you should be expecting Brexit related. If this was really Brexit related, the movement would have been wild so far. But it hasn't been, of course. Here I continue writing. The dollar gained territory across the board. A potential Brexit scenario is boosting USD rally too. Brexit risks are clearly seen in an ascending triangle on the 4-hour time frame, broken to the downside on euro dollar. Fundamental and political risks are favoring bears in this part. So if you decide to go long, you need to be extra cautious. Well, as I just explained, here we have in the 4-hour chart, the most emblematic intraday chart, this triangle that's been broken to the downside. So where is the dollar weakness? Here you cannot see any kind of dollar weakness, right? But well, exactly the market retested this trend line and just started moving down. Of course, as I explained further, the fundamental and political risks are really pointing this to the downside, severe risks to the downside. How much? Well, we really don't know. But what is a sure thing is that in the meanwhile, the ghost of Brexit moves around Europe, you cannot expect at least an active bullish sentiment. What I could expect from now on is maybe some kind of range bound tending to the downside price action in euro dollar, and as long as this trend line keeps broken to the downside, I wouldn't open this bullishly. At least if you have a time window for trading like 1 week, 2 weeks, I wouldn't be trading this bullishly unless the price jumps above this price again. You can see it because of the steepness of 45 degrees. It's pretty much impossible that to happen. Okay. So yeah, in any case, as I say here, you decide to go bull, you need to be very extra cautious. And if you want to be a bull here, it's just because of very small intraday price action. Don't get greedy on any bullish position here, since the risks are to the downside, in the same way that I've been saying that after Donald Trump being elected, and now the slightest thing said in the bad way, in a wrong way, could move the markets against the euro, in this case because of Brexit. So it only takes, like what happened after Brexit, it only took some uncertainty, some words mischosen, said in public, etc., and the markets tended to overreact on those declarations and those words by politicians, etc. So this is the same thing that we can expect in the euro. And of course, the euro risks are that they are contagious. And here, just at the end of the post, I said that during yesterday's Dukascopy TV webinar, we explained this in more depth. So I invite people to click on the video below at that post. So well, this is pretty much everything on the euro. In any case that you are afraid of going against the fundamentals and political risk is pointing this to the downside, so just don't fight it. Just try to maybe focus on a right bearish trade here. If it takes you some days, it's okay. Of course, after having a breakout, you could expect some kind of range bound movements and then maybe this to continue down. I honestly don't expect this to continue selling off widely, but what I was explaining yesterday during the webinar is that I do believe that if the Frexit risks become real in the next months, we could see a sell-off of the euro to the party almost in one day. So we need to be prepared. In any case that you are holding live accounts in brokers that maybe are not that well capitalized, no matter where you are, it would be a good idea just to withdraw at least half of those accounts and maybe deposit it in Dukascopy. In any case that you are using you know that this forex industry, you have a lot of brokerages, and at times they are not responsible on the capital requirements. There are some countries that don't require brokers to have realistic capital reserves, so just have that under consideration, because if we see a massive movement, don't be surprised to see 1, 2, 3 brokers going bankrupt the same way after the euro Swiss franc dropped like 1,000 pips in one day. That caused a major broker bankruptcy last year. So you shouldn't be surprised at that. I believe that the question is if that's going to happen. The question is how many of brokers are going to go bankrupt after this potential euro drop. So only time will say, so just diversify your risk among different broker accounts, or if you are in the possibility, deposit it in Dukascopy, and if you really want even more protection, you can open in Dukascopy Swiss branch. So well, you know that Dukascopy, at least one of the things that you can know if a broker is responsible or not, the first of all that you need to look at is if they reduce leverage the weekends. At times that doesn't work well for everybody, like for me, that I had a margin call in my contest account. But it's way better that, it's way better that you have a leverage reduction as precautionary measure in an account, in a broker. So that gives you an idea of how safe your money could be. So yeah, just a heads up there, guys and dolls. And let's continue with this. Well, as you can see here, this is me myself. The trader contest account currently is not doing as I just put it in the picture, in the previous picture. It's not good. I honestly expect that before this weekend, the trades that I have opened are closed in profit. I honestly see it very difficult for those trades not to be closed in profit. I will explain you why in some minutes. And that would put me at least somewhere in profit. So I will have 2 other weeks to try to at least gain at least a 50-60% of profit. But I believe at these instances and in these moments, maybe it's a realistic thing. Maybe trying to generate again a 400-500% profits like I did last month, it's kind of unrealistic. But well, this is the price that I have to pay because of my lack of attention on the margin, on the leverage reduction on Friday. So as an experience, you need to take this. In any case that you trade with Dukascopy, this is the least worst scenario that you will face. But in any case that you use another kind of leverage overall with those super leveraged accounts, having trades during the weekends under such a huge amounts of leverage and having a gap against you could easily wipe your account and put it in negative. So just check that out. Let me share the. And by the way, I wanted to ask something. Have you noticed something strange in my webinars? Like if something is missing? Somebody knows the answer, please put it in the chat box. Okay, let's review this one. I was holding only a bullish trade on New Zealand dollar. Let me start explaining that trade. Very beginning. Here, missing my patience, you and me. No, Kat. No, Katerina. No. My trash talk. Maybe that would put you happy if I start trash talking. But come on, I am just bored of talking trash on Donald Trump all the time. I just want to give him a break of my trash talk. But maybe next week I will have to talk trash on him because he's coming back to the bad habits of making no sense and putting himself in ridiculous evidence in front of the mass media. So yeah, it's inevitable. I will start talking trash on him maybe next week at the most, because it's simply unrealistic the way sometimes he manages all the stuff. Sadly, well, not sadly, because I was commenting yesterday to other fellow traders that the one that was appointed by Donald Trump to become the education secretary, I believe, was not even supported by some Republicans because of her lack of credentials. But at the end, the political interest imposed, and yes, she was accepted as the education minister. But I believe that this is part of the. I mean, you cannot expect that in a game that is called politics, all and everything, and somebody, in this case the president, lose them all. The most likely things that he will lose in the Supreme Court, this ban ruling on Muslims and refugees and tourists from some countries, but they gave him maybe in exchange this prerogative just to put this woman that place. So yeah, it's he just confirmed yesterday that yes, he in fact offered the Mexican president and said that the Mexican president was interested in receiving help from the United States to eradicate the drug cartels. I would only say this to this guy: yes, Mexico has a huge problem in corruption, and it's pretty much that corruption that is destroying the whole country, by the way. In the same way drugs are destroying the United States, corruption is destroying this, just because of the American addicts to drugs. So I would only tell him, if you really want to get rid of the drugs, the drug trafficking, it's not with guns, because there you have Afghanistan. It's occupied by NATO, and you still have loads and loads of heroin coming from Afghanistan. If he really wants to eradicate drug trafficking, he needs to start figuring out how to fight back addiction, how to fight back the addicts, whether to criminalize them, the consumption or not, whatever, but he needs to start looking elsewhere. This problem in Mexico was tried to be solved in the last administration, not this one, the last, with the guns, fighting frontally and fighting eye to eye to the drug cartels. And guess what happened? Nothing happened. Because the drugs will find eventually a way to get to the United States just because of the price they are willing to pay. So yeah, This is the next wave of contradictions that Donald Trump is generating, so eventually I will start talking about them the next week. And another thing, the Mexican peso is reacting bearishly because we have the confirmation that the Republicans started proposing a 2% of tax on the money that people send from the United States to Mexico just to pay for the wall. But that again, since it's an incomplete and incompetent idea, it lacks a lot of information. That is why the markets are reacting bearishly on the Mexican peso, because what kind of transactions? Every kind of transaction? How will the government be able to really differentiate between the money the immigrants are sending back to Mexico? And by the way, the immigrants, illegal immigrants, are not only Mexicans. We have a lot of Central American people working very hard in the United States, sending some bucks to their homes, to their motherland. And is he going to tax everybody? Even the Vietnamese, for example, or the Thailand people that are working there? So this again opens a debate and a huge lake of doubts, and if this idea could even be properly applied. So yeah, we will have to talk about trash and Trump next week. Here it says, we should put you in a joint webinar with Duck. Well, I really don't know, because I have like the idea that he likes Donald Trump, and I don't have any problem sharing ideas, only if my ideas are respected, and I respect others' ideas. But this politics things is a very heat talk. So I really don't know. My idea, of course, is going to be very different from him. In any case, he supports Trump. I have the idea that he does, because he disliked a lot Obama's style. He called him socialist. And yes, Obama was a kind of socialist. But this Donald Trump, I don't believe that he is even Republican, right? So only he knows what he is. But it would be a good idea if he likes the idea of maybe having an exchange of ideas. My idea is not to impose my views. I have the conviction that when you debate, if two mature people debate, they go out of the debate so enriched, and maybe they don't have to change their opinions, their outlooks on something, but you get richer in ideas in exchange just because of the exercise of tolerance. But if you like that, you can propose that to him. If he likes it, I don't have problems. Of course, if he's a Trump supporter, I will have to moderate some some words that I use to refer when I refer to Trump. And let the holy war begin. Well, yeah, I respect a lot Doc. What I've seen him as a trader and how he understands markets, I respect him a lot. But that doesn't mean that maybe I could agree in everything. But yeah, it would be interesting. Overall, you know why? Because it's very important that in every arena possible, it showed up to the world that being American and being Mexican doesn't mean that we have to fight each other. We have different interests. Of course, the Americans, I understand why the American average worker is so angry at Mexicans. Of course I understand that. Because it's not fair. It's not fair that somebody comes and does the job half the price, and they are upset. But they should be upset with the government. That is why they voted for Trump. Because they actually materialize that anger to the what they call establishment, because it was the system, the one that made illegal immigration prevail because of economic reasons, because there were a lot of people benefited by that, having dumping costs, production costs. and this entity is really not sharing that bigger part of profits that they received while using illegal immigrants' work. So yeah, I understand people there. It's not fair. I wouldn't be happy if I see illegal immigrants from anywhere in the world working for half the price and simply putting jobs, uh, putting me maybe in jobless, right? Of course, I would like to receive the whole payment. Not, I wouldn't work for half of it. So it's a very complex situation. But yeah, it would be nice because yeah, maybe having two traders talking about uh, this very heated debate with respect, with tolerance, could send a message that yeah, not as I said one webinar, not all the Mexicans support illegal immigration. Of course not. Not all the Mexicans. We know that a lot of people that goes there is because here in Mexico we have a lack of opportunities, but not because having illegal immigrants taking the jobs. It's because this is a poor country. And that is why I dislike Donald Trump. He tries to sell the idea to everybody that Mexico is rich, that Mexico is doing great after NAFTA. That is not true. If that was true, there wouldn't be any illegal immigrants there because they all will be here with their families. Here it says, Janice, but no one wants to get rid of it in the Afghanistan. It was the United States, the United Nations, who tried to get rid of the opium poppy fields. NATO doesn't care, as that area goes to Russia and to the United States. Afghanistan, not that much now, because Mexico now is a producer of opium, unfortunately. But I was seeing a documentary some weeks ago, I believe it was before Christmas, explaining that, and it made a lot of sense, that the money of the drug trafficking, well, this is my conclusion after watching this documentary. When you have drug trafficking in an area that you cannot simply fight, is because maybe it's a higher level chess game being played in your country. It is said that the money of the drug trafficking is the money that funds CIA secret operations. And that would make all the sense of the world. They use that money that they receive through drug trafficking to maybe fund coups in governments, or buying and selling guns to some radicals or to some whatever. This is the sad truth of the world. And not because of the United States is so addicted to drugs, but because the money that the drug trafficking generates is useful for this kind of stuff. Because it's easier to get CIA operations funded that way than from the American taxpayers' money, right? And that made a lot of sense. After watching that documentary, I will check it out and I will share it with you all, and of course you Janice, if you like it. Because that was like eye-opening, you know. It was like, yeah, it makes sense. Maybe we are just blind, believing that it's just a matter of corruption, and it is. But why not believe these are major forces playing and wanting this to continue? And overall, the why, where is all that money going? It's very interesting. We will we need to talk about that. Good diversification, something that Mexico is always praised for. What do you mean, the opium, or what do you mean? Well, it's so sad here. Where the major part of opium now being produced in Mexico, it was before Acapulco, one of the most famous beaches in the world, and now it's so dangerous to go there that it's very sad. And the government is like if it was not there. I mean, Guerrero is the state where Acapulco is where, due to the tropical weather, you have the very same conditions for planting cocaine or heroin. Of course, now in the United States, heroin is a boom. So now all the soil there is used to plant opium. Sadly, it has become, I would call it a failed state. Because at some regions in that state, there is simply no police. The only authority there are the drug cartels, literally. But well, again, we have, as long as the addicts of the United States continue wanting more and more and willing to pay whatever it is for their drugs, there is simply no way. It's so much of money. They're so willing to pay that much that they will be impossible to eradicate drug trafficking. Besides the corruption in Mexico, and besides maybe now and even now, we're having like Mexico is becoming like a land of experiment for maybe Chinese interest, Russian interest, American interest, trying to grab some or have some zones of control. Because now that the United States is kind of trying to get tough on Mexico, Mexico is in a privileged position that more than one country would like to have an influence in. So yeah, why not to believe that we are in an experimental box, and even this kind of stuff like clandestine intelligence agencies from all over the world could have an interest in continue having that money flow to, I don't know, it's very complicated. Even your cardinals know that one source of income, it's not smart. Well, here, it used to be only like a bridge, like a, yeah, like a, you take the cocaine from Colombia and you put it there through Mexico. But it's getting cheaper here to produce it, and overall, because the authorities corrupt themselves with no limits. So I believe it was a, I don't know if I would call it diversification, because as far as I know, the only thing they're really interested in selling is heroin. They're not really interested in diversifying and synthetic drugs, but that's another story. But before the CIA attacks me and starts spying on my computer and my chats, I think it's time to go back to the market talk. So here is my trade. Let me check in my live trade where it is now. Well, it's pretty much at the same price now. As you can see here, I opened a bull trade here. Remember that I was explaining some webinars before and in some blog posts that there was a weekly descending channel, if I'm not wrong. Weekly descending channel. It was broken to the upside in the weekly. So I decided to go long here. As you've seen, we have had mixed activity. Then we had the what I was commenting, the price retesting a significant resistance here. I decided just not to close it, because I really need a 100% of this trade to be closed. But then it started selling off and it stabilized here. We need to watch that we are retesting now. It is clearer now that the 0.73 zone, the price is jumping here and jumping here and jumping here. What I dislike is that on the intraday, the only thing that we have now as a reference is in the 30-minute chart. This double bottom, that it's pretty insignificant because to have a real reliable double bottom, at least you need to have it at the end of a swing of at least in the 1 hour or 4 hour chart, not in the 30 minutes. But here it gives you an idea. For example, my stop loss has always been in the 0.7240. So it has passed a lot of hours and the market's apparently stabilizing here. So even though maybe I should move my stop loss at these levels below, I will simply let it the way it is, not increase it, just let it as it is. because I am not convinced that maybe the market could even retest this level again and then jump. There are, in the way I understand the New Zealand movement, it's fighting back very decently the dollar bullishness yesterday. So that is why I will decide to give it a shot again when the New Zealand dollar bulls appear again, to maybe try to push it above the 0.7380 to the 0.74 zone that I have my take profit there. But theoretically, I should move the stop loss here. In this case, because of the context and because of the contest, I will just let this price here. In any case, that by tomorrow I have like these two levels being retested and not convincingly jumping or staying at least in this zone by tomorrow, maybe I would consider just to close the trade. Here it says Xenia Chulaeva, good morning. Okay, so this is everything on my New Zealand dollar trade. As you can see, it's I have been in a decent profit here. Now it's retesting back, and well, what I didn't like yesterday is that we had, I believe it was an ascending channel in the hourly or 4-hour, I don't remember. And actually these levels were breaking those levels, that lower line to the downside. So I was kind of worried. But well, you know what trading is about. You picture a plan in your head and you play it. And as I've been saying, I've been seeing the markets for quite a few years. I have seen several times that the markets, after breaking a trend line, they decide just to jump back. So I said I have a decent stop loss, so let's just wait. And well, the market just did this, and then it's coming back. Exactly now, it's retesting at the 72.85. It's not looking good. But I'm going to explain you something else. And by the way, Katerina, do we have a webinar after by David? Okay. Well, just to start wrapping up then. This is a very correlated trade for New Zealand dollar. How you know it? Because when you start watching the chart, you start seeing that they behave more or less in the same way or in the contrary way. In this case, euro dollar has been behaving like a mirror when you compare it to the Kiwi. Besides the amplified and circumstantial benefit of having this shorted, means that you're shorting euro, so you are in the direction of the fundamentals and the direction of the political risk. Okay, and this is why I decided to open a small trade there with the available margin at that moment. As you can see, my short trade was open here. So now my trading little account is at 14 pip positive. So watching the correlation of the currencies, this is like a confirmation of the maybe. When you have a correlation, that doesn't mean that they move in tandem, like what you can expect in the Swiss franc and euro, for example. They tended, at least before, to move exactly the same way, just in the opposite direction. I mean the euro dollar versus the dollar Swiss. Wait a minute. I just want to take another picture. No, I will just stick to this because of the time. This is yes, this is the euro Australian dollar. So I decided to short it here. When you're trading correlations, you need to be very aware that correlation doesn't mean the exact movement at the exact very moment. Correlations could happen after having a movement, maybe some hours later having the exact same or the opposite movement in the other one. That happens all the time. So I shorted here because at the moment I shorted here, this was a triangle breakout. I believe in the 1 hour chart. This is the 4 hour chart. It was here a triangle. So it was broken, and the market was testing it. So I said, okay, I will short this because I still believe that New Zealand dollar is moving higher. So I will play it in the direction of the correlation. I will start shorting this. Now this trade is clearer to the downside. So that is helping me to pseudo confirm that holding, besides all of the other reasons in the New Zealand dollar, not only this, but this is another confirmation. If I have this trade that should be behaving in the opposite way and it's now in profit, maybe it's just a matter of time that we start seeing again the New Zealand dollar moving upwards. That doesn't mean that it's a no-brainer. But yeah, as long as this trade is in positive, I will still hold my perspective bullish in the Kiwi. This is how I trade the correlations. There are tons of ways to trade the correlations, even to hedge your trades, etc. But this is the way I wanted to trade this here in the contest. So well, you can see I am in profit there, and so far it's 20 pip in profit. And now the New Zealand dollar is starting to behave way more convincingly to the upside. So yeah, maybe it's this is like a, yes, it's like a way to confirm maybe a trade. If I see at this moment this latest trade heavy in red, maybe I would decide to at least close one of them, the Kiwi or this, because then that means that I don't have neither verification that maybe the direction is correct. And I open another trade to the upside in the Mexican peso for obvious reasons, the ones that I just explained some minutes before. I just want to let you know this is the 30-minute chart. If I'm not wrong, I will just draw quickly. It was a simple triangle here, something like that. That it was detected by the chartist widget in Dukascopy, more or less this triangle. I will erase it. But the moment that breakout happened, and since again the fundamental political risks and the delicate situation of the Mexican economy regarding Donald Trump's policies, I decided to long it, and pretty much immediately it started moving in my favor. As you can see, my take profit target is 20.7. I could even easily put it into 20.8 or this one. But since my idea of this is just grabbing some dollars, and I wouldn't sustain, and besides my lot is very small because at that moment my free margin was very low. So yeah, I would be happy just to grab the position here at profit. As you can see, it's even below the mid part of this channel up, so it's pretty much acceptable. It's almost a no-brainer that this will get close in profit. Of course, there are no rules in trading that way, but yeah, I feel pretty confident in this. So I have 3 trades open now. My margin used now is 104%, so yes, I am in huge risks that if something goes really bad, really wrong, I could have another margin call. But well, of course, I am trying to, as you've seen, I try to choose my trades wisely, not to rush into things. I decided to keep, if I'm not wrong, this is the 3rd day my Kiwi trades open. So I am not just trying to grab the quick buck and to recover the account in a lucky streak. I am having my fundamentals correct, trying to understand them, the context, the chartist patterns, and yes, to believe that Kiwi will go up. Euro supported by euro dollar, euro Australian dollar bearishness, and that Mexican trade that was very opportunistic because, well, I was not foreseeing opening anything in Mexican peso this week, but well, the opportunity arose and I just took it. I believe it's time to call it a webinar, and I would like to thank everybody for showing up. Of course, Katarina, And even though today the recording computer is not working, it's always a pleasure, and I want to show my gratitude for you, to you for your help and always recording and being here and around. Yanis, of course, for showing up. Ksenia Shulaeva, thanks for showing up, and all the guests. And remember that I expect you tomorrow. At the same time, same place, nothing to be thankful for, Katerina. Thanks to you. And I will change my profile picture with my Mario. How you think? Imagine this. Mario and Alberto Alvarado. Okay, enough is enough. See you tomorrow, everybody. Remember that for the ones that haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, go there, type this, click here, and you're subscribed. Thank you very much, everybody. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Be safe, trade safe, be safe, and bye-bye.